Eye contact is linked with truthfulness.
How much is it costing us for that termination?
Well, put it this way.
When people are lying, they are less likely to be specific. This is a massive red flag.
Both of the developments were started illegally. And once you start an illegal development, you do it at your own risk.
So how is it illegal?
Because there was no DC approval for either of them.
The two housing schemes under the UWP administration were developed with the aim of providing low-cost housing while tackling the issue of unplanned settlements.
Some liars are just really good at acting.
Less than 2 years into the reign of the Labour regime, St. Lucia's patrimony is not only under threat by Philip Pierre's bad policies, but is being recklessly sold to friends, family and foreigners. The latest act of detaching St. Lucia from her most prized lands came with the sale of the Banand lands along the Castries Harbour. The lands were owned by the National Housing Corporation. In 2013, the 2.5 acres was valued at about $70 a square foot for a total cost value of $7 million, proving to be a valuable asset for the state. However, in December of 2021, a decision was taken by Housing Minister Richard Frederick to dispose of the high-value asset. Former SLP Senator and prospective candidate Terence Kinney Sinclair was hired to undertake the property valuation. His report assessed the market value at $3.5 million. That's half of what the lands were going for 10 years ago. Prime waterfront property enclosing one of the most scenic ports in the Caribbean, with thriving commercial and tourism activity. And for whatever reason, the value of the lands was further reduced to $25 a square foot for sale at a mere $2.5 million. The beneficiary? The daughter of Reno Kajada.
But has a different name. So was that because she's genuinely buying the land? Is it they were just trying to avoid detection?
UWP leader Alan Chastney has raised critical questions concerning this blatant act of nepotism. What becomes of the lands when the new owners of the Castries port come in? How would the land factor into the plans for the redevelopment of the harbor to include a fishing village at Banans Bay? Would the now owners sell it off for a hefty profit? Why were the lands not kept for national development? Why not allow Invest St. Lucia or SASPA to take ownership? According to Frederick, SASPA rejected an offer to purchase. But where were Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Philip Pierre, Investment Minister Ernest Delaire, and Infrastructure Minister Stevenson King?
So you're telling me it was offered to them and neither one of them saw it fit to cause SLASPA to go ahead and buy the land? Instead, the Minister of Housing said that there was no response from SLASPA. Why wasn't the land offered to Invest? Who is the Minister of Invest Solution? Isn't it not Ernest Hilaire? Is he not the district rep for that area? You would think that after spearheading the investment by GPH to fix up Banans, that would be a natural expansion, area of an expansion, and that by getting Invest to buy it, give them the opportunity to make sure there was a proper development in that area. None of these people said anything.
The National Housing Corporation has become a pawn in the games that Richard plays, with a board too intimidated to challenge him. Chairman Mikey Pilgrim and Deputy Chairman John Peters have for years purported themselves to be men of integrity, but today sit idly by, aiding and abetting Richard Frederick in his deeds.
There was a property purchased at the bottom of the chaussee for $1.8 million, and the person they purchased the land from is the lawyer on the National Housing Committee. No question. Nobody sees anything wrong with this. We have no problems with it. This is not innuendo. These are facts that you can go and Check for yourself. Go down to the registry.
Wake up, St. Lucia. This is just another example that Pierre is putting you worse.
What if you didn't need a lie detector? Eye contact is linked with truthfulness.
A drastic move by the National Housing Corporation has led to the termination of 2 lucrative contracts for the construction company Fresh Start.
The board took the decision that not only Shock, but both Shock and Talvin developments,
Eye contact.
which were
Eye contact.
supposedly the subject matter of an 80-20 arrangement.
Eye contact is linked with truthfulness.
How much is it costing us for that termination?
Well, put it this way.
When people are lying, they're less likely to be specific. This is a massive red flag.
Both of the developments were started illegally. And once you start an illegal development, you do it at your own risk.
So how is it illegal?
Because there was no DC approval for either of them.
The 2 housing schemes under the UWP administration were developed with the aim of providing low-cost housing while tackling the issue of unplanned settlements.
Some liars are just really good at acting.
We were born in 1964, brothers and one sister, fed by a deep faith in God and in ourselves, with a common purpose: to fight the cause for those who can't, to grow and develop our St. Lucia to meet the basic social and economic needs of our people, a job for every man and woman, decent, affordable housing, universal education, quality medical care regardless of level of income, adequate social security, especially for senior citizens and the disabled. We believe in religious freedom, democracy and the rule of law, racial and social harmony, elimination of gender discrimination and political victimization, free enterprise, cultural, social and economic progress, conservation of our environment, economic empowerment of St. Lucians and indigenous ownership of economic activity, economic empowerment of St. Lucians and indigenous ownership of economic activity, regulation of foreign investment for the development of our country. We are the party with vision. We are the party that develops. We are proud of our decades of success. We believe in ourselves. We are proud of ourselves. We are the People Party. We are the party of choice. 2024, together we celebrate our 60th birthday. We are one family. We are the United Workers, and this is our party, the United Workers Party. We were born in 1964, brothers and one sister, fed by a deep faith in God and in ourselves, with a common purpose: to fight the cause for those who can't, to grow and develop our St. Lucia to meet the basic social and economic needs of our people, a job for every man and woman, decent, affordable housing, universal education, quality medical care regardless of level of income, adequate social security, especially
members of the media, those who are viewing and listening live, fellow St. Lucians. Today marks 2 years since we as St. Lucians began our regression. Today is the anniversary of the 2021 elections. And sad to say, after this short period of time, St. Lucians have finally realized that they were bluffed, that they have been schemed, and that they have been taken for a ride. But before I delve into this, let's deal with a little bit of the positivity that takes place in this country. I want to take the opportunity on behalf of the United Workers' Party to congratulate our school's team that did so well at the Windward Island School Games. And I want to congratulate Ms. Julian Alfred for her continuing exploits on the track, especially in the 100 meters, and for us to wish her the very best in the upcoming World Championships next month. My prediction is that St. Lucia will get its first world medal at those championships. And while we're still being positive, let me congratulate St. Lucians for finally realizing that you were duped, that you have a government that has failed you and failed the country. I want to take a look at our situation 2 years after the assumption of office of the Saint Lucia Labour Party. 2 years later, I want to ask you the question: do you feel safer in your country than you were 2 years ago? Today, St. Lucians have become immune, numb, accustomed to the news of another death by gun violence every other day. Today, under the St. Lucia Labour Party, we have become accustomed to the point of expecting that every weekend there will be some homicide taking place in this country. We are now looking at more than 50 homicides so far in just the first half of this year. And we are well poised to realize a record number of murders in St. Lucia this year. This is happening while we have a Minister of National Security, the Prime Minister, and a Minister of Home Affairs in Ms. Virginia Poyet, who have nothing to say, nothing to offer, no plan to advance to curb the situation or to exacerbate the fear under which we are living. I've said before, and I'm going to say again, the crime situation in St. Lucia is dire. The crime situation in St. Lucia is at crisis proportion. We have to take it seriously, and I will keep harping on it until the relevant authorities, namely the government of St. Lucia, realize that it is their responsibility to lead the way in doing something about it. It is not good enough for us to have multiple murders in a weekend and for us not to hear a word from our Minister of National Security, for us not to hear a word from our Minister of Home Affairs, and not a word from our Prime Minister. That is not acceptable. And I say to you, we had a little reprieve during the Carnival weekend, for which I'm grateful, and I've praised the Lord for that. And I compliment St. Lucians for their behavior during that festive season. However, just imagine, in neighboring St. Vincent, we had what they call mass murders in St. Vincent, where 5 people were killed, something we have here almost every weekend. And immediately upon that occurrence, we heard from the government of St. Vincent. The Prime Minister was all the way in Morocco, and he immediately addressed the nation. So why, in this country, can't we have a situation where the people who are responsible for our security, for our protection, for our safety, why can't we have them taking up their responsibility and coming out and showing us that they in fact care and that they are doing something about it? Okay. So it is unacceptable, and we have to see it as being unacceptable. And just imagine, while I'm praising St. Lucians for behaving themselves well and for us not having the normal mass killings over the Carnival weekend, just imagine the shootings in St. Vincent. Can you imagine that some are attributing it to the actions of St. Lucians? So, I don't want to repeat what someone said to me. The reason why we had peace for that weekend is because we exported our criminals to St. Vincent. Is that what we have to export? Is that all we have to export? Is that what we want to be affiliated and associated with? That tomorrow, when crimes take place in Martinique, the first place that they look to is St. Lucia. When it happens in St. Vincent, the fingers are pointing at St. Lucia because we have become a crime-ridden country of criminals. That is not the reputation we want to cultivate here in this country. And so I'm saying that the Minister of National Security, I'm calling on him once again to either step up or step down. I remember the days where every Tuesday we had press conferences when the Saint Lucia Labour Party was in opposition. And with every killing, they had something to say. They had some advice or policy to offer. What has happened now? Where are those policies? Where are those positions that they advocated back then? When they were doing so, it was not politicizing crime. And now that we as an opposition are expressing our concern about the level of crime in this country, all of a sudden it is politicizing crime. Well, crime, like they say, is our business, and we are paying attention to our business. We are the victims of crime. And by the way, let me remind you, you do not have the privilege of bodyguards, like some government ministers do. So you have to be concerned about the crime situation in this country. And as we're talking about government ministers who have bodyguards and who will be unperturbed by crime, I have asked the Prime Minister, in dealing with the crime situation in St. Lucia, start from the top. Look within his cabinet and determine whether among them there are not criminals. And to assist the Prime Minister, I know he has a lot on his plate, I just want to remind him that coming from his own party's platform, it was said, it was alleged that Richard Frederick is a criminal. And that is serious enough given the fact that he sits in our cabinet and in our parliament. I ask that the Minister of National Security, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the head of cabinet, investigate that claim that was made by his party. And now we are hearing claims from the very Richard Frederick that his life is being threatened. I do not want to venture and to say it is paranoia resulting from his deeds and actions. But we have to take those cases seriously. And I understand that coming out of his claim that he was being stalked or followed or assassination attempt was being made on him, arrests have been made. How many of the killings that have taken place so far, for which we have heard arrests? If in the case of a government minister, action can be taken so swiftly, people can bring their position to bear to ensure that people are arrested, let us see it happen when the other crimes are taking place in this country as well. And so I say to the Minister of National Security, investigate your cabinet. I remember once hearing from the Prime Minister, Minister of National Security, indicating to St. Lucian that none of his ministers have been fingered as being involved in crime. Well, let me say to the Honorable Prime Minister, with due respect, sir, you have fingered Richard Frederick as being involved in crime. Your party has done that. And I ask that if you are genuine, if your party is genuine in the claims that you all were making about Richard Frederick, that you do what you say and you say what you do. You said that your cabinet, I'm not asking you to eat what you see. You said your cabinet will not be comprised of criminals. Give us the assurance that there are no criminals in your cabinet. Has Richard Frederick been exonerated from all the claims and allegations made about him by the Saint Lucia Labour Party? If so, let us know how he was exonerated. Let us know. You told us from your own platform that Richard Frederick was one of the most dangerous developments in St. Lucian politics. And I want to call on Dr. Kenny Anthony, a former leader of this country, a member of the present government, to honor his words and show that he has principles. I recall in the 2011 election, Dr. Anthony came to Grand Riviere and said that I was part of a government that was involved in all kinds of corruption and misdeeds. And it was not good enough for me not to say anything. And I tried to carve a niche for myself by staying under the radar and not saying anything. So he wanted me to come out to say something. Practice what you preach. Practice what you preach. You know more than I do. You know more about Richard Frederick than I do. Come out and practice what you preach. Tell us why you refuse to sit in the cabinet. And I want the other members of the Saint Lucia Labour Party government to tell me how comfortable they are with Richard Frederick in their midst. And I'm stressing on Richard Frederick, and you might be wondering why. The example is set from the top. We cannot have bad examples at the top and expect it not to trickle down, and expect the rest of us to conform and comply when the examples that we see in higher places, in the highest offices, is one where people do what they want, people follow the law, and people are able to get away with all kinds of allegations and accusations made about them. And I want to just take a moment to say quickly, the Prime Minister had an issue with me talking about the crime situation in this country, to the extent that he went to Parliament and he said he don't know what crime I'm talking about, only crime he knows about is kidnapping. I want to say to the Prime Minister, do not be an accomplice or an accessory to crime. You are the Minister of National Security. If you know about kidnapping, I challenge you as your responsibility, as your duty, to take up that matter and bring it to the attention of the police and the Director of Public Prosecution. We are tired of the insinuations, allegations, accusations, wild claims, unsubstantiated, being made to serve as smoke screens to blind people from the realities that we face. And so, today, 2 years after the Saint Lucia Labour Party under Philip J. Pierre has assumed office, I stand here before you, commensurating with you for the fear with which you live in this country, for the compromising of your freedom that you have experienced in this country, and for the threat that exists to your economic survival in this country. Let me elaborate. If you were not afraid, if I say to you tonight, let's go to Vieux-Fort to Lyme, you would not decline my offer. You would not be concerned about where you go when, if you're not living in fear in your country. If your freedom had not been compromised, you cannot tell me that on occasions that there are days when we have to shut schools, shut businesses, ask people to go home by 6 o'clock because of the activities of criminals in this country. And let me just say to you, we are not like the Saint Lucia Labour Party, who at all costs try to gain political advantage by going overseas and corresponding with international agencies to accuse the government of being corrupt, to say that there is human rights abuse in this country and all of those things. We will not do that. But we ask them to ensure that they don't do anything to the extent that the people see for themselves that these situations exist in this country. So I will not be the one touting to any international agencies about the situation involving the Minister of Housing, Richard Frederick, and the Banans land situation, which is corruption. I will keep it here among us and ask our government to fix it. I will not be the one talking about the passport scandal that is going on in this country. I will not be the one to go and advertise the fact that we went as far as issuing passports to Iranians and Russians through our CIP programs, jeopardizing your ability to get a British passport British visa, soon to follow European visa, and perhaps eventually a US visa. It has happened to Dominica. Do not fool yourself into thinking it cannot happen to us. The corruption of the governments in the region is under close scrutiny. And I see the elements that are presently sitting in our cabinet and our parliament. We have to be concerned, and we have to ensure that they do not take us down through their misdeeds. And so I say, while today we still have a country to fight for, let us stand. Put aside all your fears of victimization, which I see is being perpetrated by the government of St. Lucia, because once you speak, they attack you. Well, I am saying that there are some of us who will not be intimidated, and some of us will not allow ourselves to be victimized, and we will speak out. So, never mind all the victimization that you see. It is your responsibility, it is your right, it is your duty as a St. Lucian to take a stand and let your voice be heard. The United Workers' Party cannot do it on its own. What we do is for the benefit of the citizens of this country and in the interest of this country. And you as a citizen have to stand with us and ensure that we make the government understand that they cannot run roughshod over people in St. Lucia, and that they don't have a free hand because of the mandate that they now possess, that we are still their boss. So, ladies and gentlemen, while things look gloomy in terms of your safety and security, while, and I'm sure one of my colleagues will touch on this, while you are going through perhaps the hardest time, I see some young people here, perhaps the hardest time you have experienced in life in terms of the high cost of living and the quality of life that you're experiencing, while your government can find no innovative, creative ideas to boost the economy of this country, and all they can think of is to impose taxes on you, and of course, you know, soon to come is the 2.5%. And instead of saying that they're bringing VAT back to 15%, they have said they're going to add a 2.5% for security and health. The two areas that are woefully underrepresented in this country, where we hear nothing in terms of a plan from the government as to what they're going to do. Instead of saying they bring it back to 15%, they say they're adding 2.5% for security and health. Let me just say this. It is worse than adding 2.5% onto the VAT. Because when you pay that 2.5 on top of everything, it is compounded and you end up paying a little more. That is what your government is doing to you. The same government who refused to bring down the price of gas, even when the world market plummeted and gas was cheaper internationally. That is the government that said that they are for you. And I like that phrase. Instead of putting you first, they have put you worse. Far worse off than you were 2 years ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will stop here for now. And like I said, never mind all the dangers that swirl around. I want to appeal to our youth to control themselves, settle their conflicts amicably, and families and neighbors and friends, intervene where you can to avert the crime situation. But we know that it is more than that and it goes beyond that, because now that the government seems to have placed some focus on Beaufort, we know the criminals who are always one step ahead of them have simply migrated to the north. And what we are hearing now, because their activities in the south is disrupted, all the gang activity, the drug activity is disrupted, they're in the north now, and you're hearing of break-ins, okay, theft, and things of that nature. Okay? So, be vigilant, stay safe, take up your responsibility, stand up, speak out, and fight for your country. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now call on our first speaker, who will speak on the issue of failed healthcare system in St. Lucia, and the incomplete projects that the government of St. Lucia inherited and promised. I would like to now call on our chairman, Mr. Thurl Prudent, to address you on that subject.
Thank you. I first want to start off by welcoming our media persons here, and we're grateful that you're here to cover what we have to say today. I also want to say a big thank you to the supporters of the United Workers' Party. You are the ones who have kept faith. You are the ones who have strengthened us along this journey. You are the ones who have made it possible for the United Workers' Party, despite of all of its turmoil, early turmoil after the elections, to be able to wrest our party from those who may have wanted to cause it harm and to bring us into a better place, making the UWP stronger than ever before any time that we can talk about. You've done that. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Let's keep faith and let's keep working hard to make the UWP the next government of St. Lucia. You know, the vision of the UWP is to change lives. The vision of the UWP is not to fool people, mati bayo, dio saki pavwe. Our vision as UWP is to believe in the vision also of our political leader, Alan Chasney, and to ensure that we make him the next Prime Minister of this country. Because never before in the history of this country have this country been more lacking in terms of leadership than now. And we know, you know, I know, you know, that Alan Chasney is the only one who can restore order back here in this country, and that's a fundamental fact. The UWP believe in affordable health care. The UWP don't believe in making people do barbecues, raffles, just to be able to take care of their loved ones, which is what the Saint Lucia Labour Party has essentially done here in this country. And so we need to wrest this country away from this disastrous experiment by ensuring that the next government of St. Lucia, which is the government of the United Workers' Party, affords you to have $75,000 worth of insurance per year. So you don't have to be, going around the place doing raffles, barbecues, to be able to what? Take care of your loved ones? This is not right. In any country, government places its people first. And by placing its people first, government ensures that there is what you call affordable health care. Uni pou take care of se moun ki malade, because tout moun malade a pays ya, ki paye uni, moun pa sa travail. You don't have the quality of health care and the quality of health to work in this country, and this is what we need to change, my friends. And so, the UWP, I have to say to you, after 2 years of a disastrous experiment with healthcare, the Saint Lucia Labour Party is yet to complete St. Jude's Hospital. They are yet to tell us what the vision is, or what the thrust is in terms of completing this hospital. And remember Emma Hippolyte saying to people before the campaign, Kama Tibai Moon, telling them, we'll finish St. Jude's in 1 year. Today marks 2 years. Where is St. Jude's? Where is St. Jude's? Where is St. Jude's? And we don't have that. We are grappling. People are dying of diseases that they should never die of in this country. And then what do? You know, the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, life expectancy is about what? 50 years? 75? But then guess what? They chose our elderly people to experiment with by claiming they want to give them insurance, universal health care, 80 years. And I'm saying so, which means that if life expectancy is 75 years, is 70 years, that means that tout se moun sa la ki sa yo kay mo ava yo heme we healthcare pays sa la ou pa we se book sa top mauvais. These fellas are too wicked, completely wicked. So you have to see what they're doing there, and then you take pregnant women and mothers, tell them you're offering them this and offering them this little thing here. I am saying no. What we need is comprehensive health care in this country so that every young person, every adult, every child is covered by comprehensive health care in this country, which is what the United Workers' Party will deliver to you after the next elections. And make no bones about that, Labour must go and Labour will go. You know, how can a sane person, someone in their right minds in this country, you know, believe with all their hearts that Labour has delivered to them? Folks, look around. Healthcare is in degradation. Crime is all over the place. Doctors want to strike. Parents are crying. You go to the Owen King Hospital, you're spending hours before they can even bring you in for treatment. And no medication here in this country. And in 2 years, that's where we are. And you tell me Labour put you first? Well, Labour has put you worse, which is what Labour has done. And so we say to you this morning, if you truly want to move our country forward, if you really want to move St. Lucia in the direction in which it needs to go, you need to vote for a United Workers' Party government to be able to make those fundamental differences. And when will we ever get a modern-day hospital? Alan Shasney and the United Workers' Party began one. All you had to do was come in and continue and fix it and finish it off. But then you take us down a rabbit hole of saying that you're going to go back to a 50-year-old institution. 50 years old, with all kinds of problems, structural issues, blah, 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 and tell us you want to deliver to us a polyclinic and not a hospital. That's what you want to do. Essentially, that's what you want to do. But I'm saying to you, we will very likely, with the way Labour is going, on the trajectory in which Labour is going, we will complete that hospital and not the Labour Party. Very likely. You know, you have a lot of persons here in this country who voted for Labour because they claimed they wanted hope. But the hope was the little flame, you know. That little flubber was the flame that kept this country alive through COVID, making sure that we did everything to protect lives and livelihoods. That's what we did on the United Workers' Party. But soon, as soon as Labour come, what did they do? 400 people, 400 fellow St. Lucians lost their lives because of the irresponsibility of the Labour Party when it came to healthcare and COVID. You understand? Remember that. Don't forget that. On the UWP, we balanced lives and livelihoods. On the Labour, all they thought about was themselves and their pocket, and in the end, 400 people perished here in this country, and this is a fact. You know, folks, after 14 years, St. Lucians, our patients, our supporters, their supporters, our mothers, our fathers, are still in the stadium. They're still in the stadium. What a shame. What a shame. And as you pass by the stadium, see how it is. There's no way to offer people a dignified system of health care. We need to remove them from there. We cannot let that happen. And 2 years of no medicines for our hospitals, that is happening here in this country. They claim universal health care. What they talk about is rationing of health care. That is what is happening under the St. Lucia Labour Party. rationing of healthcare. Instead of making sure it's universal, anti-gula, more deme, more deme, oswe, men nuka just ba one team yet because upaka viv tel malota. That is what the Labour Party has done here in this country. And so, folks, instead of completing projects that were started by the United Workers' Party, what have they done? They've stopped every single project. But you've stopped every single project, noting that you did not have any plans of your own. Yet still uka stop sakite hala. Let it continue, because it was good. It was good for the country. Bonsu pani plan pou kou. All uni pou faire say wave at the flag ek di se ou ki fini. And what was wrong with that? What was wrong with that? Just waving a little flag and saying that, okay, we finished it. But you know, on the United Workers' Party, we have to have what you call continuity. Meaning that if something is good, it doesn't matter what government started it, we will complete it. And this is how we will govern as a party, and this is how we need to be able to move this country along. You know, this government should be ashamed, you know, to speak about healthcare in this country. And you know, when you look at the failure, of this experiment for the last 2 years, it cries for help. And why it cries for help is because we are bleeding here as in this country. We are feeling the pinch. Whether you voted Labour or whether you voted against Labour, we are all in the same boat. Nutut kasufe. And that is what is so bad about the politics and the experimentation of the Saint Lucia Labour Party. Guess what? We're on track. We were on track to finish Uronoro International Airport. Where is that? Nothing. You hear nothing. Everything has gone quiet. Where are the jobs that you needed to create in the south of the country? Where is the healthcare you needed to be able to boost up in the south of the country? God forbid that we should ever have a plane crash where you have mass casualty. Where are you going to take them to? The polyclinic? That's where you're going to take them to? You don't have a hospital, a state-of-the-art hospital that can accommodate such, if in the event, we pray God that never happened, but in the event that should ever happen, at least you know that you have a hospital that you can go to. And you know, what about the roads? Right here in Rodney Bay, we started a 4-lane highway, which would have eased the congestion of all of this traffic every morning. For me to have driven here from Grosile, Ategozile, to Rodney Bay, it took me almost half an hour just to get there, something I should be able to have done in 5-10 minutes, unless or less. And so think of you traveling to Castries. Think of you taking a journey from Grosile to Vieux-Fort, how long it will take you to be able to get there. I arrived yesterday from New York back home. And all along we're driving smooth. Blah, 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 blah. Once I got past Castries, gridlock. And I'm telling you, had the Labour Party completed the project of the United Workers' Party, we would have had no problem here in terms of gridlock here up north. And you have to blame Kenson Kazime. You have to blame the government of the Saint Lucia Labour Party. You have to blame the whole bunch of vagabonds. They have to be blamed for what has happened here. You know, the bus drivers are complaining, but I want to remind them they need to change their vote this time and ensure they vote for a UWP government that can give them the kind of livelihood that they are seeking. And they can only get that under UWP government. And all the complaints that is going on right now, it's your fault, not ours, but we will welcome your support next elections, which we believe that we will get, because you know, I know, that we are the better of the two parties. Finally, I will say to this. We have seen, after 2 years, nous pas besoin en lot full 5 ans pour Labour c'est magie. Nous pas besoin en whole 5 ans pour nous realize that Labour pas savent ça yo ka fait. Nous pas besoin en whole 5 ans pour nous savent that Labour ouais qui la pas ni pièce plan pour pays ça là. that only sa Labour vle, c'est pour mettre l'argent poche yo, ek camarade yo, ek femme yo, ek jabal yo, c'est ça yon Labour vle fait. Mais en bas flambeau, we don't worry about those things. We have always put you first for the entire time that UWP has been in power from 1965 up to when Alan Chastanet was the Prime Minister of this country. We have put you first. So we don't have to boast about putting people first. Putting people first is the UWP's motto, because that's what we've done over a period of years of being in government here. And so forth, I will say to you, as I leave this platform today, Labour, you won the last elections. But Labour, after 2 years, you've inspired us enough to work hard to ensure that you are removed from the seat of government in this country. And I say Labour must go. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You heard it from Mr. Prudent, the state of your health in St. Lucia. If St. Lucia is in poor health, do expect your health to be good. I, look at the composition of the cabinet, the composition of our present government, and we have some women sitting amidst the men. And what is normally expected, because we have heard it for too long now, we need women to represent the interests of women and so on. But you have women in parliament, you have women in cabinet, and there are issues that touches and concerns women, and we have not heard their voice. Well, I am a part of the United Workers' Party, and I want to know that the women in this party will step up, take a stand, and let their voices be heard when it becomes necessary for them to represent the interests of women. I want to salute one of the women in the United Workers' Party, Senator Farah Polius. And there are many others, as you have seen and you will see, who will not shy away from the responsibility, be it as controversial as it might be it as uncomfortable as it might be. Leaders do not shirk their responsibility conveniently. Whatever the case, whatever the situation, when you are called upon to take a stand, you come forward and you lead. I would like to call one of our leaders in Senator Farah Polius, who will address you on the issue of protecting our women and girls in St. Lucia. And of course, I spoke of your freedom, a little about your freedom to travel, our visa-free travel. She will address you on those issues. I invite Senator Polius to come to speak to you.
Good morning, fellow Flambeau warriors. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Flambeau warriors. Yes. My voice is not the best today, but I will try. I want to start off by saying a pleasant good day and well wishes to all our Flambeau warriors. You are here with us today. Those in the diaspora, those in the Flambeau war room, those in the Flambeau train, those who are in various groups in their respective constituencies, and those who in their own personal capacity continue to fan the flame. I want to encourage you to be strong. Let us stay united, because even if we may differ on our views and opinions, we have a common mission. And we need to continue to work together, because we know that together we are going to dethrone the Saint Lucia Labour Party. Fellow warriors and St. Lucians, the Labour Party has failed every single one in this country. They have repeatedly failed our farmers, our taxi and minibus drivers. They have failed our own healthcare system. They have failed the parents of this country. They have failed the people of Beaufort, Dennery North, Canaries, Babonneau, all over the island. In every single constituency, the Labour Party has failed our people. And you know, the saddest and most depressing reality is that the Labour Party has failed our women and our female police officers. 2 years of failure, it's time to get rid of Labour. 2 years of failure, it's time to get rid of Labour. We are suffering from Labour pain. We need to get rid of Labour. You see, fellow St. Lucians, and those of you warriors here today, there are many who have called. There are many who have joined the call, inviting and pleading and asking for the Prime Minister to send home or to send on leave the acting police commissioner to facilitate an investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct against our female police officers who filed the report. And to this day, the Prime Minister, who's responsible for what? National what? National security, has refused to respond to the plight of our women and the female officers. And do we want more of that? No. We don't want more of this. He has looked for every excuse not to investigate this so-called godson. Godson of his for alleged sexual misconduct, claiming that the content of the report was mere accusatory. Saint-Lucia, Saint-Lucien, nous passons après ça encore. Nous passons après ça encore. What do you say? What message are you sending to our women, our girls, and our aspiring police officers, female police officers? You know, even the Caribbean Federation of Police Welfare Association, in a report, expressed disappointment on the lack of action of the Prime Minister and his reluctance to demand that the acting police commissioner goes on leave to facilitate an investigation in the matter. So we're not the only ones calling for this independent investigation. No, there are others who are watching us. The whole world is watching us. And they understand the plight of our women. We want to ask, why is the Labour Party, and more specifically, the Prime Minister, Minister with responsibility for national security, protecting the acting commissioner and refuses to investigate these allegations? Il a fait qu'on dit pas tant nous. Il a fait qu'on dit pas tant Saint-Lucien. Il a fait qu'on dit pas savent qui ça c'est police officers ça qui aller through. Il pas savent. Why does he refuse Why does he refuse to sanction an investigation? And is this worth the kind of celebration that they will be having later during the week on Sunday? Ça, nous ka célébrer ça. What a shame! First class shame on the part of the Prime Minister and the Saint Lucia Labour Party. You have failed our women. You have failed our police officers. You have failed our girls. And it's time to get you out. It's high time that we get you out. And Montut mentioned that there are women in cabinet. Moi pas savent. Because I cannot understand how our women, our female ministers in cabinet, Emma Hippolyte, Virginia Poyot, and other senators, our female senators, and they are going to celebrate the victory when our female police officers are going through such emotional and psychological trauma. I don't understand. And the average woman and girl in this country does not understand it. Don't these women have sisters? Don't they have nieces? They have relatives? They have daughters? And wouldn't they be out there clamoring for the removal of the acting commissioner had such a situation occurred under the watch of a United Workers' Party administration? They would be out on the streets. They would be out on the streets. And after 2 years, this is what we're celebrating. We're celebrating. We have to ask, what exactly is the plan of the Saint Lucia Labour Party? And are they going to celebrate the increase in the price of bread that has made it so difficult for many families, parents, to feed their children? Are they going to celebrate the increase in bus fare that adds to the labor pain that we are suffering? Are they going to celebrate the firing of our caregivers all over the island that has caused so many of them to cry? They are crying out in excruciating labor pain. That's what they are celebrating. The increase of the 2.5 tax on school uniforms, bags, shoes, socks, and other school implements. A situation that has made things worse for the people of this country. Is that what they are celebrating? And they are ready to beat their chest and to celebrate the lack of access of affordable health care. 80 plus. Moi-même savais si moi kay vivre pour 80 years. Combien nous ka vivre pour 80 years? L'année ça ko yo retire, yon l'année après, 2 l'année après yo mo. This is what the St. Lucia Labour Party delivers to the people of this country. What a shame. That's what you are celebrating? The fact that this government is actually forcing St. Lucian women to go back to a hospital that was built in the 70s. And they're leaving the modern, the state-of-the-art facility to waste. Let me tell you, this is really unbearable, you know. This is intolerable. We need to get them out. We need to get them out. We need to get them out. It didn't take very long for us to realize that this government had no plans for the development of St. Lucia and even for the development of the South. No plan whatsoever. And what? They are going to drink to that? Oh my goodness. They are going to drink to that in celebration? When they peut-être you can commence à célébrer victory dans l'autre élection. Peut-être you can commence à célébrer ça. The Labour Party campaigned on lies and propaganda. And today they cannot even prove any of the allegations made against the previous government. They have lost court cases upon court cases, causing you, me, all of us, St. Lucians, thousands of dollars. Yes, our well-earned taxpayers' money. We're getting them out. We're getting them out. They made so much noise about the CIP and the use of funds from the CIP. But 2 years in government, and to date, not one report, not a single report, you know. Not a single report has been laid in Parliament as required by law. They have not given an account of the money that has been collected and how that money has been spent. We are getting you out. And now, bagay ka vin pli mauvais ou sav. I ka vini pli mauvais. Ou ka setting, mwen ka setting, ek la ni please ye, set li si ka setting. We hate all the time. Ale soufi ou ka ten li. Ay denri ou ka ten li. Ay vie fo ou ka ten li. Ay kanari ou ka ten li. Tout partout ou ka ten li. Some of the very same supporters, you know what they say? Particularly the farmers. They say, di oui, di non. Mais en bas, gouvernement flambeau, nous farmers te pli meilleur ou sav. Their own supporters are saying it because they can see the light. You have failed our people miserably. And you continue to fail them. Nous pas après ça encore. Nous pas après ça encore. It is time to go. Si au premier de l'année, où j'ai fait cette Lucien autant, par contre pour sous-ouest et pour toi, 4-5 l'année. Fellow St. Lucians, think. You see what is happening in this country. You feel the pain. It affects you. It affects your pocket. It affects your children. It affects your livelihood, your health, your sanity. We cannot give this Labour Party another chance. We cannot allow them to continue to treat St. Lucians this way. We cannot allow them to continue to fool St. Lucians, and at the same time, they are filling their pockets. We cannot allow them to treat you in this way simply because, particularly those who did not vote for them. No. And they claim that they are making things worse for you. They are putting you, the people of this country, last and making the situation worse for all of you. Fellow St. Lucians, we are hearing of the possibility of St. Lucians requiring a visa to travel. St. Lucians will require a visa to travel to the UK. You can celebrate that too? Do they even care about the hundreds of St. Lucians who travel to the UK for vacation, to visit their family, and for job opportunities? Do they really care about that? And this is happening because of the mismanagement of the CIP program, the monies from the CIP program. Do they really care that the European Union is also in discussion of instituting a visa regime for Caribbean countries with the CIP program? Nous, c'est yon a dit deng. Saint Lucia, nous, c'est yon a dit deng. Et pour changer les Premier ministre dit Saint Lucia en Europe. Si Saint Lucia en Europe, nous pas vous un visa comment? Nous pas vous un visa. Ça pas vrai. Ça pas vrai. And if Saint Lucia or Martinique, for example, if Martinique decides to institute a visa on St. Lucians, où ça arrive nous à présent? Parce que Martinique juste là, quantité famille nous ni Martinique qui juste next door, qui ka vivre, qui ka travailler, qui ka aller Martinique pour treatment. Où ça veut dire? Pas fini violer en ça. Oh yes. Hell break loose. And they are going to celebrate that. What is there to celebrate? Yes, you say it, sister. You said it right. I think by now, St. Lucians have made it abundantly clear. And I've heard it in my 2 ears. And I'm sure you have heard it too. They have regretted giving the Labour Party a chance. Yo ja igwete. Messieurs, c'est pas ça que dit nous. C'est pas ça que dit nous. C'est pas ça que dit nous. Mais yo ja joine ti quoi yo pas mêlé pour encore. Yo pas mêlé pour encore. The people are clear in their resolve that a Philip J. Pierre administration has failed this country miserably. This administration has a cadre of incompetent, insensitive men and women. They have failed to deliver on any of the new projects that they promised. Instead, they've made things worse for you, for me, for all of us. They have failed to reduce on the rising cost of living in this country. But instead, what did they do? 2.5 and those St. Lucia. 2.5 and those St. Lucia. Yes, on the poor people of this country. Is that what they are celebrating? Lebanese, shall we? That's what they are celebrating. They have created a state where people are living in fear. So much fear for their lives. People are afraid of speaking out because they know that they are going to be victimized, or their family member will be victimized, their children will be victimized. C'est ça qu'on dit, but nous, on peut travailler. So you have to be quiet. You make a mettre un bruit à la bouche nous. This is what we have come to in this country. 2 years of misery, we fed up. 2 years of misery, we are fed up. Yes, we fed up. So, Mr. Prime Minister, our advice to you and your cabinet. Écoutez bien, Monsieur Premier Ministre. Our advice to you and your cabinet is to apologize to the people of this country. Et puis, pas servi 3 mots, ça, des mots. I apologize. Patwamo. And the other advice that we have for you is to give up your office, because clearly you and your team cannot run this country. You cannot run this country. 2 years of, say it again? We are going to say it again. He didn't hear. In a manière qu'a fait di partant. Nous qu'a dit encore. Monsieur Premier ministre, nous n'y a ti morceau parole pour dire. Nous voulons faire savoir qui. Vous et puis ces gang là. Qui mon nous ka qui est gang là? The Mongoose gang. Vous et puis gang là. Zo pas ça. Zot pas ça conduit pays Saint-Lucia. Et puis nous voulons ou sortir. Qui est élection? Qui est élection? Il y a l'air pour ça sortir. Parce que l'air pour sortir parce que ou pas ça conduit pays Saint-Lucia. We are fed up. 2 years of failure. It's high time we get the Saint Lucia Labour Party out of office. Saint Lucia, nous pas ça point encore. We are getting them. We are getting them. We are getting them out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Polius, who's, apart from being a senator, is also the deputy chairperson of the United Workers' Party. And she made some salient points here this morning, touched on some sensitive issues that your government refuses to address. For example, the plight of our police officers. But now as we move on, ladies and gentlemen, I will call on another senator. This time it is the deputy political leader of the United Workers' Party, who will speak on the subject increases in the cost of living. I want you to know that with the Saint Lucia Labour Party, there's not much that has improved over the last 2 years. But there are a few things that have increased. So quite apart from the increase in the rate of homicides, we also have an increase in the cost of living, which Senator Dominic will tell you about. Senator Dominic.
Thank you. Mamai Flabo! You guys are there and ready for the fight. I want to say good morning to the rest of St. Lucia that's joining us today. My message is very simple. 2 years of failure, it's time to get rid of labor. The last 2 years has to go down in history as among the worst we have seen in a government. Philip J. Pierre has to go down in the history of this country as one of the worst prime ministers that St. Lucia has ever seen. Under his watch, he has allowed the price of gas at the pumps to reach among the highest it has ever been. He has allowed bus fares to go up on the people of this country. He has allowed bread to go up. Imagine the Labour Party's motto is bread, freedom, and justice. And not even that you can uphold. Mr. Prime Minister, it is time to get rid of you and the failed Labour Party administration. And so when you allow bread to go up on people, when you don't even confine it in your heart to say that you are going to take the extra taxes that you have picked up and give people a break from the spiraling crisis that they have seen in the supermarket and in shops, and trying to get by on an everyday basis, it tells me that you simply do not care. And so you go to the supermarket now and you observe people who are shopping and they're really on a budget. You see them picking and choosing, and families now have to decide we're not going to have macaroni today, and we're not going to have cheese, and we will pick breadfruit instead of buying plantain, and all of these things. But Philip J. Pierre's solution is that we should eat more green fig and plant more green fig in the crisis. And so I have been so embarrassed when friends from around the Caribbean calls me and say, look, what kind of man do you have as a prime minister, as a minister of finance, when the rest of the Caribbean are doing all kinds of measures to reduce the impact of cost of living on people? You are coming and say that you cannot do anything. Well, if you cannot do anything about the inflation, then Philip J. Pierre, the message is you should get out of government. And so he wants us to believe that inflation is imported. And so we have to get back to the fields and grow bananas, because this is the way that we will fight our way out of that problem. We see as well that LPG gas has reached sky high. We see that while all of this is happening, no major increases in the price of salaries. Electricity, in the own stats, that the report called the Economic and Social Review that Philip J. Pierre and his team of statisticians that they put together, we see that electricity has gone up by 30%. 30%. And so Philip J. Pierre has collected over 70 million in new taxes in the last financial year. The United Workers' Party left you a solid foundation for this economy to recover. And what you have done, instead of managing that, instead of using that space that you have actually allowed the cost of living in St. Lucia to go sky high. So the Economic and Social Review says that Philip and his gang has allowed the overall price of goods to increase by as much as 6.5%. He has allowed St. Lucia to be the third highest in terms of cost of living in the entire OECS. And if you look at St. Kitts and Grenada, you will see that they are way below 3% in terms of the reduction in the price of goods that are impacting their people. And I will show you why they were successful later. Building materials, people who are trying to build their homes are finding it difficult. And regardless of what Philip J. Pierre says about him removing VAT from building materials will help people. Look, Kenny Anthony, y'all remember that? He had a construction package. And Kenny Anthony said that when he removed the duties and the taxes, that the duties are going to reduce the price of building materials by as much as 41%. And that didn't work. We have a national housing crisis in this country. And Kenny Anthony reduced building materials by 41%. And you can check on the government website and you will see that that is there, documented as facts. But what I want to say to you this morning, if Kenny Anthony's plan of 41%, Labour's measly 12.5% reduction will not make a sheet of plywood that's now $235 any cheaper for the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Prime Minister, a sheet of plywood will still be over $200, even if you remove the VAT. And so if you're serious about really making it affordable for people, remove the duties. Why are you still allowing customs to pick up service charge on people? And you say that there's nothing in your power to do? Mr. Prime Minister, you are not ready for this job. You are on training, and St. Lucia is in a crisis, and we cannot allow a trainee at the most important position of the country. And so he's having his own press conference today to celebrate 2 years of Labour. Well, I am here to say to the Prime Minister that there ain't nothing to celebrate in this country. You have mismanaged crime. You have mismanaged the cost of living of the country. You have mismanaged the economy. You have mismanaged the health situation in the country. This, to me, equals a government that has failed the people of St. Lucia. And we are here to say it is time that you say goodbye to the job. So you take off 12.5% on the plywood, and it is still far away from the people. Not even the housing development they did in Dennery that can survive with the plywood and the cost of building materials now. Mr. Prime Minister, you're out of touch with what's happening in this economy. People are feeling the squeeze. A lot of people are still in a moment where the COVID bills have piled up. Remember, the UWP was skillful enough to get the banks and the utility companies to remove the burden on our backs while we were going through COVID. And so, under the great leadership of Alan Chasney, we were able to say, look, this is difficult. This is tough. Give the people of St. Lucia a break. But now, people are still struggling to pay those bills. People are still in a lot of debt. People are still finding it tough to get by. And now, you are coming on television to celebrate. You're out of touch with what's happening in this country. Now, let's compare what the UWP has done in the worst of times. And you know, people tend to believe that COVID was easy. COVID wasn't easy. Some 17,000 people lost their jobs during COVID. The entire hotel industry shut down. The borders of this country was closed. Our economy was handcuffed. And the only people really that had their jobs were public sector workers and some jobs in the private sector. But what did the UWP do? We didn't promise income support, Mr. Prime Minister, like you. And when you won the election, you deny that your income support, which you promised, that wasn't the fact. You stood on the market steps and you told the people of this country that the income support which the United Workers' Party was given wasn't sufficient. And when the Labour Party came to government, you said that you would triple that income support. And now, 2 years have passed, no income support. But the United Workers' Party, in the worst of times, did not promise income support. We delivered income support to 17,000 employees of this country. We did it. We did it. UWP did it. We waived property taxes because we recognize that if people are out of jobs, it would be difficult for them to pay their loans and their mortgages. And so we remove property tax so that the workers of this country can have a better chance at meeting the very difficult circumstance which they have found themselves in. In the worst of times, the United Workers' Party found the money, and we gave farmers support with seeds and fertilizers. And when the marketing board was closed and they couldn't reach the hotels, the government bought every single produce and gave it to vulnerable citizens. That's how you manage an economy, Mr. Prime Minister, in a crisis. And so now you can boast about victory. There's no victory. This is a complete failure, Mr. Prime Minister. You have failed the people of this country. Just take a walk in the supermarkets. Just take a walk on the streets and you will see. In the worst of times, the United Workers' Party provided electricity support for thousands of families in this country. Under the Labour Party administration, they have allowed the fuel surcharge on electricity to go up. And now electricity is 30% higher than it has been since COVID. Under Labour refusing to remove the fuel surcharge or the fuel tax on electricity, they have allowed the people to face high electricity bills. We raised over $3 billion in a national telethon fundraising exercise, mobilizing the resources of the private sector and friendly governments internationally. And we got this $3 million to give to vulnerable citizens. That's how you lead in a crisis. That's how you get people out of a struggle. That's a government that cares. But the Labour Party, after 2 years, have shown nothing but failure, nothing but incompetence, nothing but an uncaring government, which we have had. And so now, they boast about economic growth. The economy grew the first year after we left by 12%. They couldn't claim that because that was 6 months after. Then it grew by 6%. It grew by 18% rather. I challenge the Labour Party to name one project that they have done that has caused this country to grow in 2 consecutive years of double digits. I challenge them. I challenge Philip J. Pierre, Hilaire, Richard Frederick, and the whole gang to name one project that you have instituted in this country that have caused the economy to grow. And so during COVID, I remember the Ministry of Economic Development under the leadership of Guy Joseph, who's here today, that they had a situation where there was a very slow implementation of DVRP projects. We did community centers. We did roads. And while we were trying to do the roads, Stephenson King was trying to stop us. He was trying to stall the project because he already had his plan. We ensured that communities around St. Lucia had their roads. Because with tourism being closed, we recognized that construction had to step up to the plate and to stimulate the economy and to provide work for unemployed people who were feeling the pinch at that time. That's what we did in the worst of times. And so we implemented all the projects that you see them doing now. The cul-de-sac bridge, I saw them taking photos with the Japanese. The Cabot project that they said so much. I was so happy to see them sipping champagne and enjoying themselves on the backs of the United Workers' Party. Shameless government, shameless administration. And so, Mama Flabo, we gave them the Millennium Highway. And look at the mess that they have made with the implementation of the Millennium Highway. We had everything organized. We had the tendering already done. We had the financing, which we got from the British government. We worked with the CDB that's administering the project to make sure that all of these projects that were stuck in the pipeline, that we unclog the pipeline and we bring them into reality into this country. Look at the Rodney Bay Road. Look at the state of it. And that was part of the stimulus to try to get the economy going. And so while the Labour Party, they're heading to Micoud North, because initially they said that they were going to Micoud South. But when they realize how solid that Chasney is in Micoud South, they say, boy, Chasney too strong. Let's move from that. Let's go north. Let's try our best. Because what they're trying to do by moving from the north to south, they're trying to prop up a weak, failed candidate, Jeremiah Norbert, who is failing the people of Micoud North. And so no amount of political activity, no amount of lies, no amount of Labour Party propaganda can turn the destiny of that seat for the next election. On election night, the Labour Party can do whatever it wants. Micoud North is one of the first seats that's coming home on election night. So you can have as many meetings as you want. You can have as many public meetings in Micoud as you want. Both Micouds are coming home in the column of the UWP on election night. And so, what are they celebrating? What are they celebrating? The St. Jude's Hospital? No DCA drawings? What are they celebrating? Our passports, which we can lose? What are they celebrating? The roads that they say that they are unable to fix because it's raining? What are they celebrating? What are they celebrating, Mama Flabo? Now, for you, the viewers of Facebook, you hear them loud and clear. This is a corrupt government. This is a government that has lied to us. This is a government has set up their friends. This is a government has used our resources, sold some of them cheaply so that they can benefit friends. This is a government that has fooled us on numerous occasions, and it is time that we get them out. Now, after they fail us, and after they allow the prices to go up in the supermarket, they then came up with this brilliant idea of a 2.5% levy on the backs of the people of this country. Now, somebody told me that the Prime Minister studied economics. And I say to myself that if this is the treatment of an economist, first of all, you say that there's nothing St. Lucia can do to reduce the prices in the supermarket. And you blame Flabo, you say that it was the UWP propaganda, that it wasn't the Labour Party's fault. You went to Parliament, you said that you haven't collected your excise taxes. When Chasney show you in the Parliament where you have collected one of the highest amount of excise taxes, you had to stay silent. And so you see, the spin is not helping your lack of ability and your incompetence. The spin is not helping the failure. And so now, today, we have a 2.5 levy on all kinds of initiatives. You try to buy a mattress today and 2.5% levy. You try to do very basic things, a 2.5 levy. But you know what was very disappointing? Is that I heard certain voices say that this levy that was supposed to have gone to health and security, that this levy was going to go to all areas of the private sector. So the Chamber of Commerce came out and they said that, look, we were very confused that when we spoke to the government, that the technocrats were saying something totally different from the private sector, from the government. The chamber also begged them to delay this levy because the business people want more time to adjust their system to administer this levy. Philip is not listening to anybody. He is the great economist that has landed us in this mess. And so his arrogance, his duplicity, his incompetence has risen to the fore, and now we are where we are. So he went ahead and he's implementing this brilliant tax, according to him. But you know why they're implementing this tax? They're implementing this tax because in Sufra we told them that they were going to raise the value-added tax back to 15%. Because up to now they're still vexed with Chasney because Chasney reduced the tax from 15 to 12.5%. And we did so because of what's happening now. We recognize that VAT had caused prices and cost of living in the supermarket to go sky high. That the ordinary people of this country couldn't afford to live, to eat, to do basic things. There was no inflation crisis then in the world. Kenny Anthony created the inflation crisis in St. Lucia by making sure that goods in the supermarket rose by 15% and more. And so every time the Labour Party is in government, that's what we have to put up with. High taxes that carry up the cost of us living in this country. And so they wanted to do the tax, but because we said in Soufriere that they were going to put VAT back to 15%, they said, well, we need to create something that resembles VAT. So they came up with a health and security levy. But in the budget, it shows that they are planning to raise $30 million. But when we look at what they're going to spend in healthcare, we see the amount that they have allocated for health has actually gone down by $10 million. How is it that you put a new tax on us, tell us it's for our health, and then we are not seeing in the budget that you allocate it for other things? And so Philip J. Pierre and the Labour Party needs to take a page from what other Caribbean governments have done to relieve them from the strain that they have felt from inflation. Look at what St. Kitts have done. St. Kitts have given their people, they didn't promise, they give income support. They give them monies because they recognize that things are tough. They reduced the excise tax on fuel. We begged the government to cap the gas at $13.95 because the United Workers' Party, when we were going through COVID, we made sure that gas was capped at $13.95. Then we removed, in St. Kitts rather, they removed VAT completely for 3 months. Completely removal of VAT. Philip can do that in the stroke of a pen. But instead of removing VAT to give us a break, he puts on another levy on a very difficult situation. Philip could have allowed us, when our people are sending us barrels and food from overseas, he could have allowed those things to come in duty free like they do at Christmas time. He never allowed that. Philip is a man that wants to collect all of his money from us. Philip is a man that believes in taxing the poor so that they can fund favorite political projects of the Saint Lucia Labour Party. This is what this is all about. They don't care about us. They don't care about you and what you're facing in the supermarket and the prices that you have to go through. And so this incompetence must be replaced. This failure, we must get ready to go from constituency to constituency, to march and to make our disapproval be felt on the failure of this government. We must go in the east and in the west and in the north and in the south, and we must make our voices sound loud that after 2 years of failure, it's time to get rid of Labour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Fede, Deputy Political Leader of the United Workers' Party. And you heard it, folks. After 2 years of failure, it is time to get rid of Labour. Now, let's just take a look at what we are being asked to do. We have suffered many losses in the last 2 years. Your quality of life, because cost of living has gone up. Your security is in jeopardy. Your economy is in jeopardy. All of these things. But you are being asked by a government to protect the victory. There is no victory to protect. All we have suffered are losses. So, people, I implore you, protect your country. Take a stand against the degradation that is being caused by this government and ensure that we get them out in protecting our country. 2 years is more than enough. We have seen the evidence for ourselves. 2 years of failure. It is time to get rid of Labour. Ladies and gentlemen, throughout the years when Labour was in opposition, one of their main targets is one of the current deputy political leaders of the United Workers' Party. They had an obsession with Guy Joseph. They made all kinds of allegations and accusations about Guy Joseph. When I listened to the Saint Lucia Labour Party, one would have thought the day they get into office, we will not see Guy Joseph anymore. Guy Joseph would be in Bordelais. All of a sudden, after 2 years in office, all the accusations and allegations have come to zero, come to naught. You all can touch Guy Joseph? Well, you know what? At the end of the day, that is where the Saint Lucia Labour Party is weak when it comes to showing slate. If they are looking for someone who is corrupt, if they are looking for a criminal, look within. They once called the United Workers' Party government corrupt, and their main reason for doing so was mainly because of the actions of people like Richard Frederick. We have gotten rid of Richard Frederick, and he is now where he belongs. So if they are looking for corruption, do not look far. Ladies and gentlemen, the nemesis of the Saint Lucia Labour Party, the deputy political leader of the United Workers' Party, who will continue to do battle for the United Workers' Party and will be part of the coming victory of the United Workers' Party. And you know, those of you who have in the past spoken out against this current government will know, once you speak out against them, they try to vilify you. They try to tarnish your reputation. They come with all manner of accusations and allegations to try to destroy your character. But when you are clean, you cannot be sullied by the unclean. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will call now on our deputy political leader, who, by the way, has lost no steam. Sometimes, and I was surprised when Guy Joseph lost his seat, more surprised than I was when I lost mine. But I will tell you this, every disappointment is for us. And I am certain, I'm in a position to say that I am in that constituency almost every day. That's where I have my farm. I can tell you, the regret after 2 years is palpable. Guy, the people need you.
Pleasant good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
I am proud to be here today as a supporter of the United Workers' Party. I must tell you that this is a sad day for me. A sad day, not because we lost elections 2 years ago, but a sad day because of what has happened to our beautiful St. Lucia. Because you win elections, you lose elections. The great Sir John lost elections, even as the father of the nation. But it is the expectation that those who replace the government will be able to do better and will be able to continue to put the country on the right path. And so, it is for this reason that I am sad. It is the state that St. Lucia has found itself after only 2 years of the reign of this Saint Lucia Labour Party. And sometimes you think to yourself that things cannot get worse. But when you see Philip J. Pierre as a prime minister, then you know you are at the bottom of the bottom. And so, as I seek to address issues in relation to the 2 years. Like I said, it is a dark day for us in St. Lucia. We have seen the worst of the worst in the present government. But yet still, they are calling their supporters to celebrate. What are they going to celebrate? But you know, you have to hand it out to the Saint Lucia Labour Party. A nothing government can find nothing to celebrate, and they will still celebrate. That is the nature of the people that we are dealing with. So are we surprised that St. Lucia is in the state that it is today? When you have a nothing government going to celebrate nothing, you expect something? If you can celebrate nothing, then there's no need to do anything. And that is what the labor... And I'm not just telling you words because they sound good, you know. I'm going to prove what I am saying to you in my presentation. Now, I heard my colleague, Senator Polius, talk about the visa issue. According to our Prime Minister, we will not need visas to go to Europe. We will not need visas to go to the UK because we are part of Europe according to the Prime Minister. Now you can laugh at it and you can take it for a joke, but if that is what the Prime Minister of the country says, then what else am I supposed to conclude? Now people can laugh because when I was in government, they said I couldn't speak English. And they said Alan couldn't speak Patois. But at least we understood where we reside. We knew our location. So, have you heard any statement from the Prime Minister about the possibility of visas to go to the UK? You would not need it.
We are already living in Europe.
You are European, according to your Prime Minister. You are European, so Europeans can need visas to go to their own country. But that is what passes for governance in this country. Now, what we begin here today will continue on Sunday in Babonneau. We are having a town hall at the Multipurpose Center in Babonneau. That will start at 4 p.m. on Sunday. And we are inviting you, our supporters of the United Workers' Party, to come out. But we are going there from morning because we are going to church. We believe in God. And so we are going to attend church services in some of the congregations in the Babonneau community. Then we will meet together. We'll have lunch and then we will do a walkabout. And then we would have a town hall meeting because this press conference today, Labour's holiday is over. And if my colleague, the PRO, Mr. Montut, thought that I was back, I wasn't back. I'm back from today. I said I was giving Labour 2 years. I've not been in the constituency. I've not gone and done anything in Castries Southeast. When people elect a government to serve them, the government must have time to serve them. And then you evaluate what the government has done. So, today, we will do a quick review of the performance of Labour. And all of my colleagues, they have done admirably in terms of the areas that they have highlighted. I may reiterate some of the things that they have said. So let's look at the achievements after 2 years. Because if you're going to celebrate there should be something, not must, because Labour is celebrating nothing. But let's see what they have done. The highest taxation in the history of St. Lucia. That is an achievement by the Saint Lucia Labour Party. And you know why it is the highest taxation? Because when you put the 2.5% levy, as they call it, and the mathematicians who are in St. Lucia, not Philip J. Pierre, he cannot count. I've said it in the parliament, I said it years ago. I said Labour could not count. And you all remember the 3 words saga, I apologize. 3 words. And he counted it on his finger. So I don't know whether his spelling or his counting was the problem. But maybe he has both. So if you look at the 2.5% levy, if they had reintroduced the 2.5% tax or VAT and taken the VAT to 15%, VAT, it would just be a straight 15%. But when you add the levy on top of what is there, it would take it, if it was VAT, to about 16.3%. So this Labour Party is going to Mikud. And don't be fooled. There's a reason why they chose to go to Mikud. They moved from Mikud south because they didn't want to really see what real representation was like. That would show off Philip J. Pierre too much as Prime Minister for what Masha is, or Castries is after 25 years of his representation. So they chose to go to Mikud North. But they went there because that's where the bedrock of Flambeau resides, in Mikud North and Mikud South. And even if we lost the Mikud North seat, don't be fooled. We had lost Mikud South previously in a UWP election. So we need to take note. They are going there because they cannot even go to their own constituencies and celebrate. So you need to keep this in mind. So they are going to celebrate highest taxation in the history of St. Lucia. And if you think I'm joking, how could you collect $70 million more than you projected? It was not a grant, it was not a loan, it was taxation. So what they budgeted for, they collected 70 million more. So isn't that the highest level of taxation that we have seen in the history of St. Lucia? And I will break it down for you so you understand exactly. When I come to a sheet of plywood, I will show you the calculations. And you will understand the exploitation that this government, how it is exploiting the masses of the people. Now, we have the highest fuel price ever in the history of St. Lucia under a St. Lucia Labour Party led by Philip J. Pierre. That is what they are going to celebrate. And when people can celebrate wickedness, when people can celebrate doing mischief to other people, it tells you the mindset of these people. And you don't need to know more about them. Well, moun sa celebre mauvaiseté. That is what Labour Party is going to Mikud to celebrate, the wickedness. And you know why I know they're going there to celebrate the wickedness? You remember when they were repairing the roads, the East Coast Road. They made from the Saint Lucia Bridge to Fulasho part of the East Coast Road, and they skipped from Pralin Bridge to Canals, the two Mikuds. So you have it two Miku Meshasti. So they are going there to celebrate the wickedness that they are doing to the people of St. Lucia, and in particular the people of Mikud North and South. So we have the highest fuel price under a UWP government, and that's why I tell you, it is not just who is the leader of a government that makes the difference. It is those persons who sit in the cabinet with this minister. When Stephenson King was prime minister and fuel went to $147 a barrel, my colleague Mr. Montut was there. We were in the cabinet and we said we cannot allow fuel to go past the $13.95. And we capped fuel at that price. And even when Alan Chasney came in and became prime minister, we still capped the fuel at a particular price because we know fuel impacts every area of life. Today we fuel under $80 a barrel. We are still paying $17 a gallon of fuel, the highest it has ever been in the history of this country. And it's more than a year Labour has the price of fuel at that level. But you know what? I know a lot of our people are upset with Flambeau and they are saying we are not making enough noise. Well, it is not Flambeau alone that have to make noise, because it is not Flambeau alone buying fuel at $17 a gallon. So if you feel it, you better get up and start doing something about it. That is the approach we need to take. I didn't put Labour there. Some of you who are complaining about Flambeau, you all were the ones who put them there. And some of you Flambeaus who did not come out to vote, by virtue of not voting, you helped put Labour there. So try and undo what you all did. All of us I need together, as my colleague indicated. I'm not here to pacify people's conscience, you know. I am here to speak the facts. That is what is affecting us as a country. So Labour is celebrating the highest price of fuel ever. And they don't care. The vehicles they drive, you know who's fueling it? The taxpayers. So they don't know the price of fuel. They don't care about that. They have drivers and they have vehicles. And I'm not criticizing them because we had the same opportunities, but we drove our vehicles more often than we drove the government vehicles. My colleague is here. We move on. The highest cost of living ever in this country. I cannot recall a period of time in the history of St. Lucia when the cost of living was so high. And our political leader and leader of the opposition went with 2 bags of groceries to show the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister said he doesn't go to the supermarket, to show him what $200 can buy. And you'd think that somebody like Emma, who's the Minister for Commerce, would have some, as a woman, as somebody who was in charge of the NIC, would understand the plight of the average St. Lucian. But there is a curse when you are associated with the Labour Party. You see, this Labour Party, I don't know. You get blinded, you cannot see, you cannot reason. There's something fundamentally wrong with this new Labour. And I can tell you, they can bank on all what they want. The Labour Party of George Charles, Odlum, Josie, Louisy is not the Labour Party that is governing St. Lucia today. This is a different set of people. How do you think Stephenson King and Richard Frederick found themselves inside of there? Highest cost of living ever. Food. The government said after they collected $70 million excess revenue, they said they could not continue to subsidize flour, so the price of bread went from 25 cents to 45 cents a loaf of bread. The highest price bread has ever been in the history of St. Lucia. And you're going to celebrate. And St. Lucians will go and celebrate with them. Building material. Do you know And let me break it down for you so you understand. Prior to COVID, under a UWP government, a sheet of T111 5/8 plywood would cost $85. That included the 12.5% VAT. And I'm going to give Labour Party some homework. Today, the same sheet of 5/8 plywood is $220. From 85 to 220. So let me do the maths for them because I don't trust the maths. At 12.5% VAT on the $85 would be $10.63. At 12.5% on $220 is $27. I want you to follow what I'm saying here so you will understand. Your sheet plywood take $85. 5/8 c'est ça qui ni groove dans ka servi pour bawe kaila. Nous pas même parler about 3/4 et 1 inch. C'est puis ça top ho nous pas parler about ça. Un bas partisan flambeau avant COVID. Your sheet plywood take $85. Jodi a sou ala dans hardware store sou chance ou kay joindre pour $220. $220 for the same sheet of plywood. So VAT la, this dollar as to $85 la, this dollar at 63 cents, $27 on the VAT today at $220. So here's the maths I want you to understand. A sheet of plywood, so today, if you remove the 12.5% VAT, which is what they promised, so you remove $27 from a sheet of plywood that costs $220, the sheet of plywood is still costing $193. So when UWP was there under Alan Chasney, you could have bought 2 sheets of plywood and it would only come to $170 and you'd still have the $23 to pay a vehicle to bring it home for you. Do you follow what I'm saying? With that. So, I want you to understand. So, yes, they are going to remove the 12.5%. They have added 2.5%. They are moving 12.5%. But they have also kept it, and my colleague Dominic highlighted, that the average duty on lumber, let's say it's 40%. Why didn't Philip J. Pierre and the Labour Party government reduce the 40% or charge based on the previous rate of $85? So if you charge on the previous rate of $85, you didn't even have to remove VAT. The duty would have kept the price of the lumber within the reach of the average person in St. Lucia. So I want you to understand that, yes, people will save a few dollars, but they are spending twice the amount they used to spend before. More than 220% more. Because chain supply issues after COVID, and you know when prices go up, it's very difficult for it to go down. The only government I knew who was reducing taxes in this country is the UWP government led by Alan Michael Schaff. So, yes, they are promising us that, and I want you to understand. So, it is simple. If you work out the duty of 40% on the $85, it is $34. If you work the duty on $220, it is $88 duty. So if you remove the $27 from the 88, which is the price of the duty, and you remove the VAT, the government is still making an extra $27 on every sheet of plywood. And you want me to come and celebrate that you have done something to help St. Lucians? The only way you can help St. Lucians is go back to the base price and say after things level off after COVID, then we will consider the increase. That is why they collected $70 million more in tax revenue, because the way they calculate taxes, you have CIF price, cost, freight, and insurance. They add that, and then they calculate the VAT on top of that. And now when they add the VAT, they will calculate 2.5% on top of that. Now I want to clarify to my colleagues and to everybody. It is not $33 million that they are going to collect from this 2.5%. They are going to collect $44 million. I want you to remember, the implementation date was the beginning of the second quarter. So the first quarter of the financial year was not calculated in the 33 million that they projected to collect. So it's 3 quarters is 33 million, then 4 quarters or the whole will be 44 million. That is what, so the following year, on the 2.5%, they will collect 44 million. And Peter King has the audacity to come on television because you're working for a fat salary and say that's neither here nor there, that's negligible, that's not a big tax. $44 million taken from the poor people of this country. It's not the business people paying that. It's the consumers who would be paying that $44 million. So after they took $70 million from us already, they are now taking an additional $44 million. That's $114 million from the poor people of this country. And you coming on television and saying that's not much. That's as much as I will say on this. So building materials, right now more poor people cannot even repair their houses. And even with the removal of the VAT, that's neither here nor there, because the prices are still double. The only way you can cause a dent in there is to reduce the price considerably to back to where it was prior to COVID, because people are in a worse financial situation today than they were before COVID. So let's go on. Cooking gas. Tell me, when did a tank of cooking gas go to $40, $45 in St. Lucia? $50 almost. The highest price of cooking gas ever in the history of St. Lucia. And let me tell you, look at how this Labour Party has been exploiting the people of this country. A 20-pound cylinder of gas was about $40 at one time. 5 by 20 is 100, of course. Why, when you buy the 100-pound cylinder, it was not $200, it was $350. Why? They'll try to tell us they were subsidizing. Bring the figures and show us. Why is the landed price of fuel hidden? I have reason to believe that from the last time I checked, I could only get the numbers for last year. I know the landed price of fuel, and government is making about $6 or $7 on every gallon of fuel sold in this country. And at the time we were using about 21 million gallons of fuel. If you calculate with the number of vehicles that come into St. Lucia, maybe we're using about 25 million gallons at $6 a gallon. The government is making over $150 million in fuel alone over a year. You telling me that I'm supposed to celebrate with the wickedness and our roads are in the worst condition? And then you have the 2.5% coming. I'm supposed to celebrate that. Highest crime rate ever in the history of St. Lucia. And Philip J. Pierre and the Labour Party is calling you to come and celebrate. St. Lucia, will you celebrate these achievements by the Saint Lucia Labour Party? And let me tell you one that people don't want to speak about. We have never had a government in the history of St. Lucia with so many liars and so many lies being told by any government in the history of St. Lucia. And I am saying categorically, the Prime Minister is the chief of the liars. And I want you to take me to task on this. Because you said you had a tape of what I said about Joachim's son. I'm still waiting for this tape, Mr. Prime Minister. I'm still waiting for the things you said that I said that was so bad that it was not good for the air. It can be played in the courts. Because you come and lie to the people of St. Lucia. You lied your way into winning an election. But the facts don't lie today about your performance. You can't speak English and you can't speak Patois. You cannot count. You don't know economics. You never understood that tourism was so important to St. Lucia. You are an embarrassment. You are an embarrassment to St. Lucia as a country. And you are the Prime Minister. Now let's examine their shortcomings. Shortages in St. Lucia. Sugar. You remember, I saw St. Lucians on lines, fighting, climbing on each other, doing all kinds of things. Would they live sick for 2 pounds of sugar? And nowhere else in the world had a shortage of sugar. St. Vincent had sugar, Matnik had sugar, Dominica, everywhere had sugar. St. Lucia te laka goume kon zanimo pou they live sick ba an St. Lucia Labour Party. And we accept that as governance. And we are not supposed to be upset about these things. Recently, rice was a problem. I think they have resolved it. Can you believe that nowhere else has water shortage except OKEU Hospital? And this problem has been going on for more than a year at the OKEU Hospital, a water problem, and nobody. Where is Musa? Where is the Minister of Health today to tell us why there is a what kind of problem they can have of water supply in a hospital that after a year a government cannot fix if it's a pipe that chokes somewhere? Tupatu. The cruise ships that was coming in the harbor getting water and the hospital don't have water. So let's go on. Other shortages. So water, you Mr. Musa, you accuse the UWP government of a shortage of oxygen at the hospital, which was not so. And we don't produce oxygen. We have to wait for them to fill the tanks. There were so many people with respiratory issues, and you know how many tanks of oxygen were being used in a day? That the country almost could not supply what was needed. Today, water is in abundance. Rain every day. L'hôpital Lapandlo. You cannot talk about this, but you can talk about what other people should have done and they didn't do. So, toilet paper at the police stations. Police with the same law enforcement people we want. You tell me that they have to go down to the supermarket, and if they want to use the toilet, they have to buy their own toilet paper. A government who found millions of dollars to spend on jazz and private parties for carnival cannot supply the police stations with toilet paper, and I'm supposed to go and celebrate? Celebrate what? Celebrate misery? Celebrate wickedness? Medication. You know how bad it is for the medication? Do you know that our mentally challenged persons who are supposed to get the injections from the wellness center, not even the injection is available for these people to keep their medication flowing and to keep them in a stable frame of mind? And the government is moo-moo about this. Nobody and say nothing. As if everybody is afraid in this country. So you elected a slavery government, and they are now masters, and you, the subjects, are afraid. When Alan Chasney was there, everybody had a voice. Where is the Medical and Dental Association? Nurses, doctors going on strike quietly. But if it was Alan Chasney who was there, they would be on the streets. Where's the president of the Medical and Dental Association who came and camped outside the office of the Prime Minister? Where are they today to go and look after the health and well-being of the people of this country? And that's why I say to you, I have to be measured in what I say and how I say it, because I don't want to incite negative feelings towards anything. But these things, when you see what is happening, I know that all of you, and I thank you for the support, the level of support that I got on the passing of my mom. The experience at the hospital was not a good one, but I'm not ready to speak about that. I will speak about it in due course. I will, because I know what quality of healthcare is all about. And I saw what happened. But we are going on. So the wellness patients cannot even get their injections, far less for medication. Panadols, people have to go to the gas station down the road to buy Panadols. Okay? And you have heard Champagne so many times. To do a biopsy, he had to go to Tapio and buy the injection himself and bring it back to OKEU. I mean, what is wrong with us as a people? What is wrong with us as a country that we are going to sit by and accept all of these, and these fellas are driving around in security, well-protected, well-tinted vehicles, bodyguards, everything. And the people suffer. I have said taxation without representation is slavery. So they taxing you, but they're not representing you. That is slavery. Because you're paying for a service that you are not getting. Or you rendering service and you're not being paid. So let's go on. You know the biggest shortage we have in this country today? The truth. The truth is the biggest shortage. And I know the media houses are covering what I'm saying, but I have a problem with the media not asking the right questions. Now, I'm not a journalist. But you cannot tell me that the Prime Minister can come and say we are part of Europe and we report that as if it's a joke. You know, the Banan land was sold. How many media houses have we seen put up both valuations and say, how could this valuation be that? Nobody has told us that the portion of land that was in dispute was less than an acre of land, less than a quarter acre of land, a few thousand square feet for that matter. The the government is getting away, and then they are told, do not report crime. So my understanding is, if you get shot and you die 3 weeks after from the gunshot wound, you are not counted in the statistics of people who died from gunshot wounds, from shootings. Now, I don't know. What is the media reporting? Who is deciding who is clear in the air? You think government will clear the air when we have a shortage of truth in this country? We have seen them in the parliament lying, making up stories. Some of them have to be taken to court, and in court they lose the cases. And then, so we have a government where among the biggest shortages is truth. And like I said, when the Prime Minister is the chief among them, passports, there have to be a shortage of passports. Depuis qui temps moun yo tanto akapu hena passport a own pays yo. Tell me the last time. You think if Minister Montut, myself, Dominic, those who have served in government, you think if we were in government and people had to take these lines to get a passport, you don't think they would be outside the Prime Minister's office on a Monday morning demonstrating? So if all of you want to stand on the line for 10 hours, well, continue to stand on the line. Okay? Then we heard about the briefcase. How could the people with the briefcase get so many passports overnight, and the average St. Lucian standing on the line for 3 weeks cannot get a passport? And we accept that. And you want to go and celebrate? That is what we are going to go and celebrate. Most broken promises. Whether 1 5-day promise. Philip J. Pierre said he didn't say that. Even after Andre played it for him, he said he didn't say it. Are we a joke country? No, comedians don't even do that. I mean, they played it. You heard him saying it. And he said, that's not me, I didn't say that. So you think it's the tape about me he have? The $1.50 for the fishermen. Where is it? I assume that since Labour Party came into office, there are roads on the sea. Because Musa was the one who stood in Parliament. So why are we making the fishermen pay? You know what? The fishermen still pay. And they pay more. Yes. And when they removed the $1.50 for them on the price of fuel, they still paid more than they ever paid on the flambeau. So, where is the $4,000 tax-free, income tax-free for persons earning $48,000 or less for the year? What has happened to that? So he didn't promise that either. Where is the everybody who the government was owing $5,000 or less in tax returns? They would be paid back immediately. Where is that? They said they would complete St. Jude's in a year. Where is it? I would assume by their calculations. They said they would have no criminals in the cabinet. Is that a fulfilled promise? And they said they would put you first. Now I realize I need to move on quickly. Most top projects by any government in the history of St. Lucia. No other Labour Party government or UWP government in the history of St. Lucia has stopped as many projects as the Labour Party has done. And let me just run, I'll just run through, for time, I'll just run through some of them. But when you come to Babondo, I'll deal with the rest. So the most, St. Jude's, By their own report, it says that the project could be completed within 18 to 24 months. And I don't just tell you stories, you know. I have the report. I have the St. Jude report here with me, where it says that the project could be finished in 18 months. And that's why I agreed that by their reckoning, 18 months has not arrived yet, but they celebrate in 2 years. So maybe you usually have celebration after 1 year. So 2 years is 1 year for them. I know only in prophetic time things are measured this way. So St. Jude would be completed, but it's not started yet. And again I heard Stevenson King. Stevenson King said, we said that a $3 million site preparation worked out to be $9 million. Stevenson King, you are the minister for infrastructure. You have all the engineers, and you have John Peters on the committee. You mean you can't find the numbers to bring here and show the people of St. Lucia where the UWP government paid more than the value of the work that was on the ground? You send a committee, and by their own report, and I have all the numbers here, you know. I don't speak, and the thing was never $9 million, was $7.7 million. But up to now, you all can't tell anybody how much you all paid Reno to pressure wash and to fence. And you know we had a plywood fencing. You know when you're building, when you're doing construction, you cannot put a chain link fence when there is construction going on inside. You know that when they took out the plywood and they put a chain link fence on a building site? You have to ask yourself, what is wrong with these people? That is elementary, that is basic. Either you get galvanized, you get plywood, or if you put a chain link fence, you have to put the covering like a tarpaulin something, because you're not supposed to see the activity going on inside, and it's supposed to be a protection for people walking by. We had a solid plywood right around the St. Jude site. They took it out to pay their friend Reno a job. Do you understand what is happening in your country? And then up to now you had 5 million and you had 10 million. I know the assessment that went to infrastructure was for 10 million, and when they reviewed it, the engineers at infrastructure had an issue. Now I've said to them, I challenge them to show one project that I presided over that was overpriced. Because it's not difficult. When you excavate material, it has a price. When you have to transport it away, it has a price. And you can measure cubic meters easily by going and measure the depth of what you dug and the amount of material you took away. And you would find that the cost that we paid was below the market rate for the work that was done at St. Jude. And I challenge the Labour Party to prove otherwise. You know who they have? A St. Lucian Canadian engineer today reviewing what has happened. So the whole committee, John Peters, the other architect, what's his name? Hennicat, all of them. They went there, they did all that stuff. They couldn't get what they wanted. So they have engaged a Canadian. You know what happened? The project that was priced at 32 million, the Canadian came back with a price of 34 million. So our price was cheaper than the price they came up with. But they're still investigating. I want them to continue. So let's look at stop projects again. So St. Jude, they said they were going to go in 2 years, in 1 year, 18 months. They have not started. Work has not started. Now, according to Alva, St. Jude is completed, and I expect them to be moving the people from the George Odlum Stadium to St. Jude. Because what did he say in Parliament? Take some chemical clean up the place, pass some paint on it, and St. Jude is ready to go. So by Labour's reckoning, St. Jude is completed. By their reckoning, these are not my words, it's in Hansard. Anybody can go and read it. And when the parliament, when people who are elected to high offices in this country can talk so much garbage and get away with it. So today, you see, God has a way of dealing with us. You said that's what it needed. God put it right in your lap. Do what you said was needed. You remember John Peters said it would take between $5 and $10 million to complete St. Jude? He went on site and he said, after he did all his investigation, he cannot come with a price. But when he passed on the road and he looked at St. Jude's in a distance, he could come up with a price of $5 to $10 million. And I'm supposed to respect you as an engineer. I'm supposed to respect you as a professional. I know my limits. I know what I don't know, but I don't talk that level of foolishness. By his own admission in the report, he's saying that he does not know what the budget is for St. Jude. Meu passada distance, mas se Saint Long vive St. Jude, é que sabe $5 million te cai fini. I want to say that in English for him to understand. You, Mr. Peters, you said 5 to 10 million. I want to know whether you watch St. Jude in the binoculars to make the determination that 5 to 10 million could finish it. But today you have been part of a report for more than 6 months, and you could not determine, not even give the Prime Minister a rough figure as to what it can potentially cost to complete St. Jude's. When you all come and lie to the people of St. Lucia for political reasons, that is what happens to you all. We go on. Rodney Bay Road, you saw it. The vehicles are using the 4-lane even if the 4-lane is not there. They stopped the project. They stopped the 4-lane project. And I am telling you, you see, St. Lucians need to understand. They were complaining about the price of the project. The project, we went at a fixed price of $15 million for the project. When they stopped the project, it was measured works because the project is incomplete. And I know that the contractor's submitted price is well over $15 million for measured works with the way that the road is there. And they still have to, so they will have to pay and still finish the road. You telling me that UWP was making bubble? So if UWP was making, what is it you are doing there? Because if we could get all of that work done for $15 million, and today you would have to pay the $15 million and still go and finish the work, who did wrong and who did right? Bexo Indoor Facility. Can you believe that the Labour Party stopped a World Bank project? A project that was 100% financed by the World Bank. They stopped it for almost a year. And then the time period that the World Bank gave for completion of the project ended on the 30th of June. But the roof is not even on the building yet. So everything that is to be done there after the 30th of June, the government of St. Lucia have to pay, and the World Bank will not pay. All these monies could not buy medication to put in the hospital. All of these, every project that you stop, there are cost implications for stopping the project. And let me give you an example. What did they tell you about the Millennium Highway that they cannot stop it now? Because the cost of stopping the contractor and going back is more than the cost of continuing the project. But the same laws, the same FIDIC laws that were used, that was used for designing of the contract by CDB for the highway, the Millennium Highway, The same laws that apply to all the other road projects that we did. So you think one will have cost implications and the other will not have cost implications? That is the folly of the Labour Party. The other thing they stopped. Forestier Community Center, the Bexar Market, the Lacroix Hudson Road, the Esperance Diamond Road, the Shock Housing Project, the Talvan Housing Project, the HIA Project, the Soufre Hospital, the Ruby Playing Field in Soufre. And I can continue to go on and on the list of projects that this government found fully funded. These are not things we were going and look for money to do, you know. These are projects that was fully funded. All the funds were in place. They said there was no money to do the Forestier Community Center. That is a lie. We were on television when the Taiwanese ambassador did the check handover for the construction of the Forestier Community Center. And I can state for a fact that under the consolidated fund, there was a separate account operated by the consolidated fund where the funding for the Taiwanese projects went into. When we left there was over $5 million in that fund. And all they have to do, bring the bank statements of that date and prove what I'm saying here is not so. Because I don't have time to come and lie. There's too much truth to highlight. So all of these projects, we had negotiated with a company who was giving us a turnkey project on the Soufre Hospital on the Bolt arrangement. And the government would pay over a period of time. All of that was stopped. Now, we have everything in this country. We have the worst Minister of Commerce ever in this country. And you see why Labour Party is going to make it to celebrate? Where is Emma in the prices of goods in this country? You are telling me that Massey has the right to charge us the price. And I can say 2 bottles of grape juice in the US, whether you go to Costco, Walmart, BJ's, whichever, one is still $4.99. Sometimes you get it $3.99. You get the 2 for less than $10 US. The same 2 bottles of grape juice at Massey is $73. My sister is there from the US. When I picked up the 2 bottles of grape juice, she tell me, "You not buying that. Not for that price." And I said, "No, if you want it, you in the US, you can buy it for $3.99. I in St. Lucia, I have to buy it if I want it." There is, and let me tell you, I have not seen the price in terms of groceries. Yes, there are some items that have gone up, but there is mass. I don't know how to describe it. There's nobody in the government looking after the interest of the people. What is it that justifies the price? Because remember, we are talking about buying retail, you know, where the retailer is selling it with a markup to make their profit already. And you are telling me the same product in St. Lucia, $73 for 2 little bottles of grape juice. And then if you go and buy the quart and you think it's cheaper, I did the calculations. The quarts that have about 20-something ounces, if you buy the 4, $16.95 for one. The 4 is still coming to more than the 2 bottles of grape juice. So whichever way you choose to go, you're stuck. I am not here telling you stories. That is the reality. But when Labour was in opposition, what did they tell us? It is Chasney who was making the prices high. So who is making the price high today? Who is making the prices high? And then you tell me inflation is imported. Inflation is imported when there's nobody looking out for the people. Okay? So, we have the worst Minister of Commerce ever. We have the worst minister responsible for passports. Up to now, they can give us, who's in charge of passport? Is it the Prime Minister or is it Virginia? Well, you can well understand why nothing is going to happen to fix that problem. Have they given us, there was supposed to be an investigation about the briefcase. And there's something about Labour Party and briefcases. There's just something. They have an affinity to briefcases. I don't know why. There's an attraction to briefcases. And once you have Labour Party involved in it, most likely a briefcase is involved in it. You hear all kinds of rumors about who is in government that is affiliated to that briefcase story and our passports and everything. You think it's by accident that there's the potential, and I'm not rejoicing over that. I would love for the UK not to put visa restrictions on St. Lucia. There's nothing to celebrate about that for any one of us. Regardless of which government is there, it would be a sad day to see that this becomes a requirement. So we have the worst minister responsible for passports, and then you have the minister responsible for CIP, who, when we warn them about selling our passports to Iranians and Russians, would not listen. Today, all of us are paying the price for it. Every St. Lucian is paying the price. But we know who's making the money from the sale of the CIP. Nobody is accounting for the money. We have the worst roads ever in the history of St. Lucia, and we have the worst minister of infrastructure of all time. We have, you see, he accused us of interfering in his ministry. I didn't interfere in his ministry. I just made sure that the roads in my constituency was done. That is what the people elected me for. Spider made sure that the roads in Grosile was done. He had a fallout with Dominic because Dominic made sure that the roads in his constituency was done. And we left government with the best road network in St. Lucia for a long period of time. And you know what we said? We had only tackled 1/3 of the road network in St. Lucia. Today, the roads are the worst that it has ever been. And Mr. Stevenson King, all by himself, have the Millennium Highway to manage, and he comes on television and he says he's disappointed. Who is he disappointed with? Now, if a man is disappointed with himself, I will be pleased with him. So they go in and celebrate how disappointed they are with Stevenson King in Mikun. I want you, the man was in charge of the airport project. I didn't make up a story. The sword turning ceremony, he gave his explanation. In Parliament, he gave his explanation. The man is speaking in Parliament today as if he had nothing to do with the airport. Can you believe? And people accept that in a country. We accept these as honorable men. If you change your position, you owe the people an explanation. But you cannot, you are the one presiding over the airport. I never engage in anything pertaining to the airport. And today, you criticizing the airport because Philip J. Pierre you can't say anything good about the airport. You know, We can go on. Now, we have the worst Minister of Agriculture ever in this country. I mean, is he alive? Is he somewhere? Maybe I need to ask my colleague Farah, is he living in Dennery? Or is he living on Maria Islet or somewhere? Because, I mean, agriculture and tourism were the mainstays of our economy. And then tourism took over the service industry, and agriculture was second. But we have a man in charge of agriculture. And I've said it. You take a forestry officer and you put him in charge of agriculture, the whole of St. Lucia will become a forest. The man is missing in action. We cannot we no longer send in bananas. Can you believe the companies cannot send bananas to the UK, but individuals can go and negotiate their contract and send bananas to the UK? Can you believe that? I mean, this is where we are, and we have a Minister of Agriculture. We have the worst Minister of Tourism ever. Tell me when last, other than COVID, that you saw such a long period of time without a cruise ship in the harbor. When my colleague Dominic was Minister of Tourism, every week there was a ship in the harbor. Between April and or the downtime from November back to April, and the following week you would have two. When was the last time you saw a cruise ship in Castries Harbor? When? And you tell me I'm supposed to go and celebrate that? What is it that this government has done to give me any semblance of hope? So we have the worst roads in history, we have the worst Minister of Tourism,
worst Minister of Infrastructure.
Worst Minister of Infrastructure. Now the rest you see I didn't mention. I don't know if they're there or if they don't there. Imagine the Minister of Health. Musa was the shadow Minister for Health. You take a man who was Minister of Agriculture, kill all bananas with black Sikatoga, could not manage it, and then you turn around and you make him Minister of Health, and you expect health will go anywhere. And I want to remind you all while Spider is here. Do you know that St. Jude is incomplete today? Two Prime Ministers, Stephenson King and Kenny Anthony. When we were in government, those of you who remember Tom Chu, the Taiwanese ambassador, he came to cabinet with a design proposal to rebuild the burnt wing at St. Jude Hospital, and said to us in 6 months, fully funded by the Taiwanese government, he would complete that. All he wanted to do was to bring down the company from Taiwan to come and build the hospital. And in 6 months, they would rebuild the entire burnt wing and put St. Jude back into operation. Every one of us in the cabinet agreed to that, including my colleague Spider Montour. The next thing we heard, the Prime Minister, Stephenson King, said he refused to do that. He's going to build a new St. Jude. And he sent them and survey a lot next to the stadium in Vieux-Fort to build a brand new St. Jude. Today, you in the Labour Party government, you go in and help them to repair the same old St. Jude when a brand new St. Jude is standing there. And I'm supposed to take these men serious about the country? So, now, the Prime Minister takes the cake. He's the worst of the worst. He's an embarrassment to St. Lucia. As somebody would say, as some elderly people would say, Adam guap couillon, Pierre qui plimi. In a bunch of fools, he's the ripest of all of them. For you to be Prime Minister of a country and you go to England and say, as a former Minister of Tourism, you never knew tourism was so important to St. Lucia? Today, as I close, I feel sorry for my country. I am not rejoicing over the performance of this government. I wish there could be things that I could highlight that was positive. I wish there could be things that I could say that would give us a glimmer of hope. But if 2 years has been so bad, I see no light at the end of the tunnel for Labour. The only choice St. Lucia has is to return the right government, the government of the United Workers' Party, to the helm of this country. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Political Leader, Guy Joseph. And I know we have been here for quite a while and we rapidly coming to an end. But before we wrap up, I just want to call on one of our senior veteran politicians, Mr. Peter Josie, who was himself a former Minister of Government, former parliamentarian for Vieux Fort, who wishes to spend about 5 minutes to say a few words about the situation in Vieux Fort. Mr. Peter Josie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to the head table, and good afternoon to everybody. I want to spend 5 minutes, but it will be less, because basically, I just want to make one statement about Vieux Fort. My statement is this. This Labour Party government has declared war on the people of St. Lucia, and the place where the war has been most effective is in Vieux Fort. I left Vieux Fort as a Vieux Fortian in 1954 as a young boy because there was only one secondary school in St. Lucia at the time. Only 3 of us passed. We went to St. Mary's College because that is what my parents wanted to do. A correction from what I've heard from the floor. St. Jude Hospital was not yet called St. Jude Hospital, but it was built by the Americans for the Second World War, and St. Jude is older than me. So it's over 70 years since St. Jude is there. What I want to say is I'm so happy I'm not active in politics. You know why? Because if I was, I would have tried to mobilize Vieux Fort and make sure that no politician of the Labour Party could ever visit Vieux Fort. None of them. And all the killings you see that is happening in Vieux Fort, every time I hear a young Vieux Fortian kill another, I wish somebody, if not me, could mobilize the young people of Vieux Fort so they don't kill each other, but I would tell them where the shooting should be. That is all I want to say. Because I'll tell you something, some people you talk and talk and talk, you can speak from now to eternity, nobody listens to you. The day you confront them with some ammunition or something and their life is in danger, that is the day you get your respect. St. Jude, the Vieux Fort Terminal building, when Sir John was there, he invited me to a meeting with him. I was representing Vieux Fort at the time. And he brought in Matalon and Matalon's representative. And this Springer, who used to be permanent secretary, he's now something in the administration. We went to a meeting, and we went to the seaport where Sir John wanted to develop, with Matalon, another Rodney Bay in the south, so that people will come, land at the airport, go to the seaport at Vieux Fort, take a yacht there, go to the Grenadines or go wherever they wanted to, or to Martinique. None of that has happened, and I believe that is still something we need to do, not only for Vieux Fort, but for St. Lucia. And I'll tell you something, I'm going to stop now. What I have to say as far as mobilizing the people of Vieux Fort, I will not say it. I'm not giving anything away so that people can say, oh, Josie looking for violence, for things so. But I'll tell you what, the people that are looking for the violence from the people of Beaufort are the government ministers in this Labour Party. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Josie. So you've heard it from all our presenters today. And so before we end, and to give the media an opportunity to ask questions, after 2 years of a Labour government, I would like you to help me grade them. So tell me whether they get A, B, C, D, E, or F. When it comes to St. Jude's, that we heard so many people speak about, that Mr. Peter Josie just spoke about, what is the grade? The Millennium Highway. Cost of living in this country today. Protecting our women.
F minus.
Okay, the Hiranura Airport, what do we say about that? The improvement in housing that was promised by the loudmouth housing minister. Agriculture. What about your health care? Now, cost of living, but specifically in terms of the price of gas, bread, oil, all things that are inescapable in terms of our daily use. What grade do you give the government? The tax refund that was promised, was it given? No. So how do you grade them on that? And remember the income support? Have you received your $1,500? What about the government's handling of COVID? What about security and crime in this country? What about the kind of representation you get from your Prime Minister? Ladies and gentlemen, our government has failed. The time has come for us to go back to good governance, progress, and development. Let us now look to the United Workers' Party, who is synonymous with this. Before we end, I do not know if any of the members of the media have any questions for any of the presenters. Yes, go ahead, please. Ezekiel Joseph is probably somewhere in Barbono on his farm. Yeah. And I think Mr. Guy Joseph made a point as far as when it comes to asking questions from the media. I will not tell you how to do your job, but the time has come for you to ask some pertinent, salient questions of the Prime Minister of this country. We want to know what has changed with Richard Frederick that they told us so much about, that today he can be sitting in cabinet with that government. Why is he now their attack dog, the loudmouth bully that Richard Frederick is, that he is the one speaking on behalf of the government of St. Lucia? What has happened that has exonerated Richard Frederick? We need to know. We want to know. I want you to ask, when last the Prime Minister had an examination about his mental capacity. And I'm not saying so as a joke. If we are to take what's happening and the business of this country seriously, we have to look at the people who are directing the business of this country. The gaffes that we hear from the Prime Minister, it is not only embarrassing. If it was not so detrimental and so critical, it would be funny, but it is not. You have a man who makes out after out, gaffe after gaffe, mistake after mistake, talks all kinds of foolishness, makes all kinds of asinine statements, and he is the face of St. Lucia internationally. He is the one who represents us. I do not have to go through the list for you about where St. Lucia is located, that St. Lucia is in Europe, that he, as a former Minister of Tourism, every child in St. Lucia knows that tourism is our main industry, and after 25 years in Parliament, he never knew how important tourism was to St. Lucia. Okay? A former Minister of Tourism. I mean, when you look at all the things that he has done, I mean, I'm not even going to talk about, his numeracy. When he talks about, I apologize, is 3 words, and all I said was 4 words, that they have not done the John Compton Dam. All those, you take it for a joke, but that is probably indicative of a man who is losing it. I do not believe that the Prime Minister is that old, that he is already senile, but there may be some mental degradation taking place with him that we need to know. He is our leader. If he is suffering any mental problems, we need to know. So I am asking now that the Prime Minister undergo an examination and let us know the result of it, in the interest of our country. Thank you very much.